Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatara Sutta Sri Śrimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Bhavishtam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatara Sutta Sri Śrimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashri Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste. The first reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes. We're in the Visit to Boston section. To each of the three devotees in Boston, Prabhupada is given a specific engagement. Jadharani was painting. Prabhupada had told her to increase the beauty of Back to Godhead magazine with illustrations. He had especially commissioned certain paintings, Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, Lord Vishnu, Lord Chaitanya with his four principal associates, Lord Chaitanya and his associates performing kirtan, as well as paintings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and Swamiji himself. Since Jadharani didn't have much art training, her first paintings had been crude, and Prabhupada had sometimes laughed to see a picture's defects. But he had been pleased with Jadharani, who chanted Hare Krishna while she worked and executed each painting just according to his instructions. If she stayed absorbed in painting, Prabhupada said that wherever she lived would be as good as Vrindavan. Prabhupada wrote to Jadharani asking her to gather other female disciples interested in art, form an art department, and flood the world with paintings of Krishna. The paintings, he said, were like windows on the spiritual world. He instructed her in many details of painting. The airplanes in Vaikuntha aren't exactly like the airplanes here, but it is something like the swan while flying, in shape, with a throne on the back, bedecked all over with golden filigree work, and looking very brilliant. It isn't a bird flying, but the shape of the plane is like the swan bird flying. How does Prabhupada know? In depicting the fight between the boar incarnation of Lord Krishna and the demon Hiranyaksha, Prabhupada gave specific instructions. The demons could assume any gigantic shape they liked. They can play jugglery. They are not ordinary human beings. You must know that a person with whom God had to fight is not an ordinary person. He could play almost equally with the Lord, but nobody can excel the Lord. Yes, Varaha is very beautiful. Generally, the boar picture is depicted as half human and half boar. But in Bhāgavatam, it is stated that full boar. You can make the first two legs as two hands and the rear two legs as legs and make it as beautiful as possible. Yes, he is reddish, just like a boar. Eager to improve her art, Jadharani began studying the great masters. When she painted Narad Muni after the style of Raphael, Prabhupada said that Narada looked too sensuous. He said he preferred her first painting of Narada, although it had not been much more than a stick figure, because she had carefully tried to follow a print he had given her. Seeing the new sensuous Narada and hearing of Jadharani's plans to study art and sell her paintings, Prabhupada replied critically, quote, "You are already a great artist. You don't want to become a great artist to satisfy the senses of the public. If your present paintings are not acceptable to the general public, I do not mind. They are fools. You continue trying your best to make your pictures as far as they can be nice looking, but not to satisfy the senses of the rascal public. Yesterday I was in a Unitarian church, and there I saw two pictures of only logs and bamboo. And it was explained to me by our great artist Govinda Dasi that these are modern abstract art. Anyway, I couldn't see in them anything but a combination of logs and bamboos. There is nothing to impel my Krishna consciousness. So if you want to be a great artist in that way, I will pray that Krishna may save you." Anyway, if the public doesn't buy, we don't mind. Why you are anxious for selling? We shall distribute them to devotees without any price. If our things have no market value in the sense gratification society, that does not mean we are going to change our principles. We are meant for satisfying Krishna, not anybody's senses. That should be the principle of our life. Is that clear? Jadharani became despondent, feeling like a fool and a deviant disciple. She wrote Prabhupada only a brief reply. For several days she moped, considering her situation hopeless. Then she received another letter. "This is the first time I have received a letter from you finished in only 3 lines. So I can understand that you have been depressed by receiving my last letter. The idea that there is a story. The idea is that there is a story. That I have lost my caste and still my belly is not fulfilled. In India, it is the custom that the Hindus do not ever take meals in the house of a Mohammedan, Christian, or anyone other than the house of a Hindu Brahmana. But a man was very hungry, and accidentally he took his food in the house of a Mohammedan. And when he wanted still more food, the man refused. As the Mohammedan could not supply, so the Hindu man said, 'Sir, I have lost my caste, and still I am hungry.' Similarly, if artistic pictures, as they are approved by the people in general in this country, can be sold quickly, I have no objection to present our pictures in such a way. But I know that pictures in this country are sold not on the merit of the picture, but on the reputation of the artist. That system is also current in India. To come to the point of a reputed artist will require a long duration of time, and our time is very short. We have to finish our Krishna consciousness during our lifetime, and we should not waste a single moment for anything else. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, a man is famous who is known as a great devotee of Krishna. So if there is not possibility of selling our pictures immediately on presentation, I do not think there is any necessity to improve our artistic craftsmanship. We should be satisfied with our pictures hanging in our different temples. We may not sacrifice our valuable time for becoming famous artists so that pictures may be sold like hotcakes. Of course, I am not an artist, neither do I have the power to see from artistic viewpoint. I am a layman. So whichever picture appeals to me, I say it is nice, and whichever picture does not appeal to me, I say it is not nice. That is my common sense affair. Therefore, my remark has no value from artistic sense. Anyway, don't be depressed. You can go on with your work, and we shall talk more on this subject when we meet together. Taking heart, Jadharani continued to turn out more new paintings until there was scarcely room enough in the storefront to hang another. Srila Prabhupada ki. Very instructive. So does everyone know that the painting that hangs in Prabhupada's museum of Nrsimhadev is painted by Radharani? Does everyone know that? You know that? You didn't know. Okay, that is one of the most famous paintings adorning the cover of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam 7th canto. Okay, so when Radharani was painting that, 1976. So she brought it to Prabhupada, which she did with every painting, to show him and ask his opinion. Any other details, whatever like this. And so you should take a look at that painting and study it closely. So when she showed it to Prabhupada, she asked Prabhupada anything more, anything else, any details. So Prabhupada's only reply was more blood. You have to see the painting to understand. Hiranyakashipu is being bifurcated on the lap of Nrsimhadev. And his intestines were being drawn out and wrapped around like a garland. And there wasn't enough blood to make it realistic. When someone is being disemboweled, there's enormous quantities of blood. And it was not reflected accurately. So Prabhupada said, more blood. So that's the famous response in regard to that painting. More blood. How does Prabhupada know all these things? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 4th canto, 2nd chapter, text number 30. Chapter entitled, Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Yad yu yang parinindata. Yad yu yang parinindata. Setung vidaranang pungsam. Setung vidaranang pungsam. Atak pasandamastritaha. Atak pasandamastritaha. Please chant. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Yad yu yang parinindata. Setung vidharanang pungsam. Atak pasandamastritaha. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Yad yu yang parinindata. Setung vidaranang pungsam. Atak pasandamastritaha. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Yad yu yang parinindata. Setung vidharanang pungsam. Atak pasandamastritaha. Brahmacha Brahmanang Shaiva. Yad yu yang parinindata. Setung vidaranang pungsam. Atak pasandamastritaha. Ladies. Brahmacha brahmanang chaiva yad yuyang parinindita. Anyone else? Brahma, the Vedas, Cha, and Brahmanan, the Brahmanas, Cha, and Eva, certainly, yet, because, Yuyang, you, Parinindita, blaspheme, Setum, Vedic principles, Vidharanam, holding, Pungsam, of mankind, Atak, therefore, Pasandam, atheism, Ashritaha, have taken shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. Please repeat. Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism. Purport. Bhrigu Muni, in cursing Nandishvara, said that not only would they be degraded as atheists because of this curse, but that they had already fallen to the standard of atheism because they had blasphemed the Vedas, which are the source of human civilization. Human civilization is based on the qualitative divisions of social order, namely the intelligent class, the martial class, the productive class, and the laborer class. The Vedas provide the right direction for advancing in spiritual cultivation and economic development and regulating the principles of sense gratification so that ultimately one may be liberated from material contamination to his real state of spiritual identification, Aham Brahmasmi. As long as one is in the contamination of material existence, one changes body from the aquatics up to the position of Brahma. But the human form of life is the highest perfection of life in the material world. The Vedas give directions by which to elevate oneself in the next life. The Vedas are the mother for such instructions, and the Brahmanas, or persons who are in knowledge of the Vedas, are the father. Thus, if one blasphemes the Vedas and the Brahmanas, naturally one goes down to the status of atheism. The exact word used in Sanskrit is Gnostic, which refers to one who does not believe in the Vedas but manufactures some concocted system of religion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the followers of the Buddhist system of religion are Gnostikas. In order to establish his doctrine of nonviolence, Lord Buddha flatly refused to believe in the Vedas, and thus, later on, Shankaracharya stopped this system of religion in India and forced it to go outside India. Here it is stated, Brahmacha Brahmanan. Brahma means the Vedas. Aham Brahmasmi means I am in full knowledge. The Vedic assertion is that one should think that he is Brahman, for factually he is Brahman. If Brahma, or the Vedic spiritual science, is condemned, and the masters of the spiritual science, the Brahmanas, are condemned, then where does human civilization stand? Bhrigu Muni said, it is not due to my cursing that you should become atheists. You are already situated in the principle of atheism, and therefore you are condemned. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum lankaite karim yak kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. So this very poignant how Bhrigu Muni concludes that it's not by his curse that these persons will become atheists. Is simply stating the fact that they are already condemned. And so we see at times that such situations arise, and we can observe through the eyes, through the Shastra Chakshu, through the eyes of the Vedas, that this material world is filled with such persons who are already condemned by observing their activities. It doesn't take much. One can see who is that person who is an atheist. He is devoid of any religiosity. He doesn't have a label that says, I am an atheist. But one can see that his activities are godless. So therefore, this is not something that we have to curse someone. By his own actions, he is already condemned. And so when we make such observations, it is not that we are cursing someone to say that this person is fallen into the whirlpool of material misery controlled by the three modes of material nature. It is obvious. Just like if you see in the water, sometimes there's a place where I grew up in Astoria called Hell Gate. It's actually called Hell's Gate. There's a junction of the river. The East River and the Hudson River are technically one river. But the island of Manhattan, the river flows around it. So the river that flows to the east is called the East River. And so at a certain point, there are these fierce currents. And many ships have been wrecked there. And so it's called Hell's Gate, named by the Dutch, because they first noticed it. And then there's a bridge erected. They're called the Hell Gate Bridge. And so if you observe from the shore, you can see these whirlpools forming. Quite powerful. And these whirlpools would shift the ships trying to navigate a narrow channel of water filled with rocks. And oftentimes they would be smashed on the rocks, lost with all hands on deck. Many times, not just once. It's a very rich history in New York because so many hundreds of years. So this, we can see that a person is actually in danger through the agency of the modes of material nature. He's walking blindly into the whirlpool of material misery. But it's very difficult to stop them because they don't understand the danger. They cannot apprehend the danger. They cannot see it because they don't have the vision. We're very fortunate that, what does it say? This aham brahmasmi, it doesn't mean I am simply Brahman. It means I am knowing, I am a knower of the Vedas. Because the conclusion that I am spirit is due to the knowledge contained within the Vedas. It is not an empty aphorism that to say I am Brahman or aham brahmasmi. And anyone can parrot that. But to truly be aham brahmasmi, one has to be sarvasya sriddhi sani Vishnu. He has to know that Krishna is within his heart. He has to understand that what is the connection? How does one get the knowledge? What is the catalyst? Just like in any chemical reaction, there has to be a catalyst. Without that catalyst, then these chemicals are inert. They're separate. They're sitting in their jars on the shelf, in their flasks. And nothing happens. But as soon as you take one and the other and you mix it, there's a reaction. So the catalyst is the mixing. And so here in the material world, when one participates in these different modes of material nature, how many reactions are there? 8,400,000 species of life. Each one represents a reaction. Each one. Prabhupada said that these three modes of material nature are 3 times 3, 9. So we have this combination, and from that you get 8,400,000 species of life. So this is why this number exists. Every species of life represents a different reaction. But those without access to this knowledge, they are unfortunately condemned to ignorance, only because somehow or other they haven't come in contact. They're all full in knowledge. The living entity's eternal nature is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. All right, so what does Chit mean? Chit means knowledge, full knowledge. All right? The Guru Kulis are very intelligent young people. They've been exposed to the philosophy their whole lives, but they don't always take it the same way we expect. Parents have a certain expectation. All right, in the material world, parents want every child to grow up and be some doctor or some famous whatever, like that. And devotees also have a similar hope. They want their children to become good devotees, strict devotees. The Guru Kulis, I remember they printed a T-shirt one time. It was maybe more than 20 years ago when my kids were young. And the back of the T-shirt, it said very nicely, because they're very keen. They understand things. They understand how to evoke a reaction. On the back of the T-shirt, it said, "Chit happens." Right? But how does it happen? Happens by engaging in Krishna's service. This is the reaction. So you can have a bad reaction and you can have a good reaction. So we know now from our experience, having been associated with this philosophy, what to do and what not to do. This is the difference between the divine and the demoniac. It's not just simply a question, everyone says you have to know the difference between right and wrong. How do you know the difference if you don't know the difference? Just like there's a term in geology, fool's gold. Anyone know what is actual fool's gold? It's called iron pyrite. Okay, but why is it called fool's gold? Because people in the 1840s, there was a gold rush in America, very famous. Sutter's Mill near San Francisco. If you know some history, unfortunately, I studied history. That was my, you could say, major. So there was this big rush, but these are laymen. They're eager for the riches, but they have no real knowledge. And so iron pyrite is plentiful, and people would think when they found it in the ground that this was the indication of gold ore. There are many telltale signs of the presence of gold. Certain types of clay, when you hit, you can find, and there's some indication, dig more. But iron pyrite is very shiny. It has flecks that appear golden in color. And so many people would waste their time and their energy excavating this, only to be told by the assayer. The assayer is the point who assesses the value, the purity of the gold in the ore. And they would come and bring it to town, big bags, struggle so hard for so many weeks or months. And the man would tell them, this is fool's gold. This is not real gold. There's one more person fooled. And so it enters into the vernacular. And so this is what happens. If you don't know what the truth is, how can you find it? If you don't know what knowledge is, how can you recognize it? So it's very important to be exposed to these. What is this? The cream of Vedic knowledge. How fortunate are we? that this is something which very rare to come in contact with, accidentally or otherwise. But we're going out in the street and making everyone fortunate. Brahmanda Brahmate Kone Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Kripai Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. We are the agents of fortune in Kali Yuga. There is no other agent. Many people are satisfied to get a little knowledge. They want to sit someplace far away and not be bothered. Because they're coming from this atheist background, or this Nirvishesha, Sunyavadi, Mayavadi background. That's why people become Buddhists. They want nirvana. They want to eliminate all sensory input. And they think that therefore, because the senses are giving me trouble, eliminate them. Of course, many people, what do? The ultimate desperation, they commit suicide. And what happens if you commit suicide? Anybody know? You're not born as a ghost, you become a ghost. No birth. There's no ghost mother. The ghost mother is ignorance. So how unfortunate. Has anyone here ever experienced ghostly visitation? I know Sitaram. Anyone who's lived in India especially has. In our temple on Henry Street was the first time Prabhupada acknowledged, because many devotees had experience with the ghost, lived on the 4th floor. There was one stain on the floor that couldn't be removed. And Prabhupada said there was some killing. He didn't say suicide. Because certain types of violence will also, a person doesn't accept the situation, they also become a ghost. So we don't know if it was a murder or if it was a suicide, but there was a ghost there. And if you slept there, inevitably you would be visited by the ghost. Especially if you tried to take a nap during Brahma Muhurta. So therefore it is not recommended. And so I had first-hand experience. And then when we bought a big building on 55th Street in Manhattan, it was a nursing home. And all the residential floors from 6th, 5th up to 11th, but 11th wasn't. These are all small rooms with common bath at the end of the hall, maybe 2 sets of bathrooms depending on the floor. And they were all inhabited by the retired nurses and priests of the Catholic Christian community. And so in these rooms, hundreds of people died. Hundreds. The whole building was simply a place for them to go and die. Old age home, nursing home. And so when we went, myself and we had a cleaning crew, we bought the building, and myself and devotee Bhumipati, who you see sometimes comes, and a few other devotees, we were the cleaning crew. Building had been empty for 2 years. Lights shut off, everything minimized. Just to walk in the building, your hair stood up on the back of your neck. That's how ghostly haunted this building was. And the elevator would move by itself without anyone pressing the buttons. And even if you pressed the buttons, it didn't always go where you wanted it to go. So we had to go to the different floors to clean. We would press the buttons, and we didn't have power. We didn't turn the power on and over. We would start at one floor. We wanted to clean the whole floor, go to the next floor. We would get in the elevator, and all of a sudden the elevator would open on a floor which we hadn't pressed the button, pitch black. And all of a sudden you felt this rush. And we stood there, frozen, the hair on the back of our neck standing on end, and just praying for the door to quickly close and for the elevator to move. So many ghosts. And then we asked Prabhupada what to do. And Prabhupada said, you have to do same thing we did in Henry Street, Bhoot Puj. Bhoot Puj. You have to worship the ghost, but not the way you think. You have to do kirtan. Kirtan with incense, frankincense, very nice, loud kirtan, conch shell, the wampers, every floor. And that quieted them down. Because the holy name is so powerful. Spirit personified is afraid of the holy name. Right? So just imagine, these atheists, they have no explanation what these phenomena are. None whatsoever. They think it's demoniac. If they've experienced it at all, yes, it's definitely something evil, you can say. Because these ghosts simply want, and what is their motivation for harassing the embodied soul? Because they want to enjoy through you. You become the host, like a parasite, inhabits your body. They try to take over vicariously and enjoy through your senses. You know, it's a very sad state of affairs, this ghostly life. And also, so therefore, there's a necessity to do things like pinda. One has to perform oblations to the forefathers. He has a date in order to free them from these horrible circumstances. Because if they died like in certain situations, many of them, they're all so many ghosts. It's like when you go to now we just passed Halloween. Right? People have some knowledge that these things exist, but they don't want to acknowledge it. They have knowledge, but they don't want to acknowledge it. So cemeteries are always known to be haunted places. Right? And Lord Shiva, he haunts these places also, crematorium, because his followers are the ghosts, the bhutas, pisachas, all his followers, they're there, those places. So these things are known, but people don't, they still don't understand how these things transpire, how a person becomes a ghost. If you tell them, they say, no, this is just child's fairy tale, mythology, like that. But they have no explanation for the phenomena and why it's embedded in history since time immemorial that these things are there. But that's where we simply have to point them in the right direction. And then when people read Śrimad Bhāgavatam and they see these things, they say, oh, look, here is everything that we always understood or we always thought about. Here it's confirmed that this is actual knowledge, not mythology. Right? All other philosophies are very shallow in their presentation of the cosmology. You know, it's very clear that in 7 days, the earth and the heavens were created. But, you know, on this day, this was created. But where is the detail? And here you have to, when you come to the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, so much detail. How does it come about? Like Dharmaraj was speaking the other day. If you understand, like if you read Brahma Samhita, you understand what is the principle of Shambhu? What is the Pradhan? How does the material elements come into motion? What is that principle? Right? Very interesting to see all these different, how Krishna's energies are working. Who could understand that the reflection, that Krishna never comes in contact, but simply by his vision, so that vision which is coming in contact, the shadow of that vision is Shambhu. And that impregnates the material cosmic manifestation. So all these things are there in great detail. So anyone can have access if he wants to read. Actually, in that Brahma Samhita, that's another painting by Jadharani. Lord Brahma is receiving Gayatri Mantra. Beautiful black background. That painting was missing for over 40 years. And then somebody mailed it back to us anonymously. In other words, someone stole the painting. You know, could have been a devotee, but, you know, whatever. They had an attachment for this painting. It wasn't theirs to take, but somehow or other, they felt emboldened And then somehow or other, at a certain point, maybe they felt guilty, maybe someone else felt guilty. They realized that this belongs to ISKCON, and they mailed it back, along with the painting that's in the window of Prabhupada's museum of Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. Another painting, early painting by Jadharani and others. So all these things, if we try to appreciate, even though it says very simply, what is that? What does it mean to be cursed? In Kali Yuga, everyone is cursed. Everyone is cursed. But we can become free from that curse by the magic of the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. So this is the origin of so-called magic. There's nothing more powerful. And we read how these mantras, how one can empower, even the Brahmastra, and how just by touching water and chanting the mantra, that one could empower that arrow, sound vibration, how powerful, and create the most powerful physical weapon that creates a chain reaction, resulting in this, what we call now, we know, this nuclear explosion. All right? This is fusion. This is how they don't even know how it works. When Oppenheimer, when they had the final result, to him it was also magic. They had no idea if it would work. And they even wrote a book about it. Oppenheimer was a great reader of the Bhagavad Gita. And so he made that quote when they had the successful detonation. Like 10,000 suns rising simultaneously. This is the verse from the Gita. And what was the other verse he quoted? Time I am destroyer of all the worlds. So this is the power of the mantra. And the vestigial remnants, you see some magician on stage, and what do they say? Abracadabra. And what does it do? Nothing. And then they pull a rabbit out of a hat. But such useless thing. And here we have the most powerful mantras. Most powerful mantras that give everything the living entity needs for eternal salvation. But still it's difficult to explain to someone who is uninformed. And so therefore we have these programs of Harinam and Prasadam. Prasadam is the secret weapon. Harinam is freely distributed because what does it do? It sets the scene. When one is exposed to the holy name, the potency cannot be minimized. So it immediately enters into the heart. And to that extent, it enters into the heart. To that extent, your original constitutional knowledge, your chit, is exposed, is revealed. This is there. It's already there. Only has to be exposed, like opening up a container that's been sealed very tightly since time immemorial. But if you know, and sometimes you see someone struggles to open up a container, they don't know the secret. It's vacuum sealed. How do you open a vacuum sealed container? You have to break the vacuum. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. If you take the bottom of the container and you hit it, what little pressure is in the container releases the vacuum and then the lid can open easily. So this is the process of chanting the Maha Mantra. We're releasing this knowledge. It's already there. Now it's coming into the forefront of our consciousness. It's not buried in the deep subconscious. And it immediately becomes recognized that yes, this is real knowledge. When we heard from Srila Prabhupada, we were uninitiated, we were uninformed, we were completely ignorant. But hearing the words of the pure devotee immediately penetrate through all the modes of material nature. Because that is the potency of the pure devotee. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sastra Koi, Lava Macha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So important. One moment's association can immediately, just like they have this analogy in the Bible of Lazarus. Christ, he rose from the dead. But this is nothing. Prabhupada has risen so many millions of souls from death. That is the miracle. Not that the physical body is revived, no. But that the eternal soul is revived. So if Christ rose one person from the dead, what is the comparison to Prabhupada's ability to raise millions of people from material death, from material oblivion, from eternal death? So this is a miracle. So we have to appreciate what real knowledge does, not superficial knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So this is, and we're experiencing it every day by Krishna's mercy. Every day, as you perform your activities, as long as you're doing it sincerely, then gradually this knowledge is being revealed to you. This is why it's called the process of self-realization. Right? It's not dependent. It's only dependent on one thing, this Harinam. Only dependent on one thing. Prabhupada, the morning walk, Prabhupada was describing, some devotees were saying, Prabhupada, some devotees, they're going away, they're saying that they're chanting and they're outside, they're living. Prabhupada said, that's okay. If they're chanting and they're following, that's okay. But he indicates that there's less potency. And he gave the example that when one lives in the temple, this is Vaikuntha. This is like when we say in Kartik, we're in the month of Kartik, Damodar. Everything done in this month has a certain exponential benefit. Right? So it's not just 1 to 1. It's 10,000 to 1. So we don't gamble, but when people bet on things, they look at what the odds are. So if the odds are 10,000 to 1, and you put $1 down, and your horse wins, you get $10,000. So this is the nature of Kartik for those who need some impetus, some encouragement. That during this month, if you perform spiritual activities, you will get 10,000 times the benefit. But that is always available to those who are living in the temple. This is the benefit. We can write it on a piece of paper on your orientation when you come in. That but if you leave this place, then you only get 1-to-1 benefit. You get the benefit, but it's only 1-to-1, not 10,000 to 1. So this is just a matter of fact, according to Srila Prabhupada's explanation to the devotees on the morning walk. That the potency of the temple is like Kartik, all the time. So this Daksha cursing Lord Shiva is very instructive for us. And then the Nandishwar cursing Daksha and all the Brahmanas. And then Bhrigu Muni coming to correct the situation and give the actual conclusion. He didn't have to curse anybody, they were already cursed. But by putting that curse on them, he becomes cursed. Because Brahmanas are not, has to be a very serious situation. Brahma Tejas, the power of a Brahman is so potent, but then when you use it like that, you become less. Because you have also become contaminated by whatever, anger. And Prabhupada said for a Brahmin to fall down to anger is worse than to fall down to sex life. Because one loses his intelligence. And then everything becomes difficult to see clearly. cannot act, cannot see, cannot think, everything becomes lost by anger. And so one should take this lesson very carefully. Don't think it's just a story. We're reading the Bhāgavatam. It's not simply a collection of stories for children or for reading around the fire, in the absence of any other material, or to get some specific benefit. Our benefit is that we're able to use this knowledge in the service of Krishna and distribute it. That is the benefit for us. And so we want to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to get this knowledge, to realize it. And so don't misunderstand when the temple commander is trying to engage you in Krishna service. He's actually giving you access to greater, deeper, more extensive knowledge. Because he knows that if you clean your heart, it's like if you had a dirty mirror, and you clean only a portion of it, you can't see. You have to keep going around to see where's that. Now I can only see this part of myself. Now I can only see. No. But if you clean the entire mirror, then you see everything very clearly. It only takes place by the interaction of, otherwise, why does it say, Tadvidi pranipatene pariprashnena sevaya? Could have left out that part if it was an automatic process. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively and render service. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So there's two things. Inquire submissively and render service. Can't get around it. And it's proportionate. We can say it 100 times, but people will still not put it in their hearts. Yayatama prapadyante tam shatava. As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. As you surrender unto me. Okay? And the agency for that is the spiritual master and his authorized representative. There is no substitute. So try to put that into action. If anything else, do some service. You don't have to wait for somebody to take it. There's so much service. Sometimes you see the trash can is overflowing. Change the bag. What is the difficulty? Something's loose on the floor. We say it all the time. But why? Because until you get the realization and until you act on it, then Krishna will not take that. It's like a line of code. There's thousands and thousands of lines of code to make a program. And then finally, the program is an executable file. You press it and it runs. Okay? So every time you do something, it's like a line of code. Eventually, it will be complete. And you'll actually have the structure of the program. Self-executable. What did they used to call it in the old days when we were young and we had to do all these things through the operating system and write code in BASIC, right? You have batch files, auto-executable files, all these things. So these things are all the very rudimentary. Now everything is so advanced. But still the premise is there. That all you're doing now is you're building your spiritual future by, Prabhupada said, following the little rules and regulations and acting in such a way that Krishna will see you, not that you see Krishna. All these hints are there. And if you're serious, then these are the hints that you live by. They're not just aphorisms and pithy sayings, that was such a nice. No. It's meant to internalize. And then you'll see the benefit. Anyone. Sometimes we see that one person who comes, very quickly he makes advancement. And what do you attribute it to? He was Suchinam, Srimatam Gehe. From his last life he immediately became like that. He left. Yes, that contributes it. But how does it come so quickly? Because he executes devotional service with sincerity and enthusiasm. Utsahan nishtayat daryat tat tat karmavata. Why did Rupa Goswami make that emphasis? Utsahan. enthusiasm, patience, firm conviction. So those things, when they're there, then you see that this Bhakta, all of a sudden, wow, look at this Prabhu. It's amazing how quickly he grasped the philosophy and executes it. So, what is that verse? Raja Vijay Raja Goyam Pavichamida Mutama Pratyaksha Bhagamam Damyam Susu Kam Kartam Avya. Everlasting and joyfully performed. If you're doing it begrudgingly, oh, I have to do it. Temple commander gave me this service. Oh, woe is me. Woe is me. Tears flowing down. Oh, I have to do this service. Then what will be the benefit? Krishna is seeing that. He's seeing, oh, this person is very hesitant to engage in. He doesn't understand the absolute nature of this service. He thinks this service is different from this service. I like this service, I don't like this service. This duality will destroy your spiritual advancement. Destroy it. Dead in the water. You have to become completely poised on the platform of equanimity. You have to see things in that way. That is spiritual vision. Vyavasayamika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. The intelligent knows what happens. Many branched. Your intelligence is going so many directions. Not focused. Right? When you're outside, you're trying to wash the sidewalk. Sitaram's trying to get the pressure washer to work. He wants a strong stream of water. He doesn't want the water to be splayed out in a spray form. He wants it concentrated, because that concentrated stream of water will clean very nicely. It will cut through all the modes of material nature. Right? But if you just have this fine mist, it doesn't do anything. It's water. It's there. There's no proper result. So you have to adjust the hose to get that strong stream of water. And then you get what you need. That is the proper tool. Nimitta matram bhava sabhyasacham. When Krishna says to Arjuna, just become an instrument, what instrument does he mean? Whatever Krishna wants. But whatever instrument it is, it has to be used properly. Right? What does that say for, they have a saying that for someone who sees certain types of problems, he only has access to one tool. And so therefore he's always trying to use a hammer. You know, when actually a wrench would be better. Or another tool. So you have to refine your toolbox and make sure that you have the proper tools to execute your service. And the first thing, of course, is attitude. This utsahan. This enthusiasm is not just some foolish enthusiasm of a child. It is directed enthusiasm. You know, that I want to please Krishna. And Krishna immediately reciprocates. What did Prabhupada say? He said, even if you don't feel like dancing, dance, and the bliss will come. Right? Dr. Dillon knows that. So we should be enthusiastic to try to get that nectar. Kevala Anandakanda. And so we have an opportunity to get more nectar today. How much nectar was there yesterday? You saw how the devotees were dancing around Govardhan Hill? How much nectar is there? From the external point of view, someone says, this is just paper mache. And some decorations thrown together, put up on there. What is that? So how the devotees are experiencing such bliss by dancing around Govardhan Hill. Because all the ingredients were there. The Supreme Lord was there, personally. The holy name was there, personally. And the devotees were there, directing their attention, their emotions, their enthusiasm. Everything was there, complete. So this is Om Purnamadak Purnamidam. This is what it means, complete. Everything is there. When Krishna is there, everything is there, but you can't see it. You can't access it unless you understand how to do so. You have to participate. You know, sometimes you feel a little embarrassed. No, I don't want to do that. So that embarrassment will hold you back because that inhibition is material. It's due to false ego, false pride. So one has to get rid of this dhamma, this arrogance, this false pride. So more people coming today. Yesterday was the biggest Govardhan Puja that I remember since I'm here. So we did our first Govardhan Puja in 2018. And every year it's a little bit better, a little bit bigger. So next year will be, hopefully it's bigger. But this is the best hill. Right? Of course, Govardhan is always the best hill. But this is the best representation of Govardhan that we've seen to date. And so that's why the devotees are so, because someone with great attention, care, and devotion, and love did that. So this is the result. And you can see it if you have the eyes to see. So we appreciate everyone's service. All right? But don't limit yourself. Okay? Nothing will happen if you go above and beyond what you think you have to do. Okay? That is the limitation. So when you have that, and why do they call it? What does Raganuga Bhakti mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Spontaneous. Spontaneous. I don't have to wait to be told. I see a problem, I accept responsibility, and I solve it. They even teach that in so-called material businesses, right? That you have to own the problem. Now you're in customer service, the person calls and says, my PC is not working. You know, you don't just brush them off and say, okay, just press Control Alt Delete and then call me back in 20 minutes. No. Oh, you say, okay, here you go. You're going to give it, what do they call it in the trade? A 3-finger salute. Control Alt Delete. Called the 3-finger salute. And so then the computer boots up, you go into Task Manager, you do whatever, and then you deal with it. Oh, here's the offending process. Okay, kill it. We can examine these things very carefully. What is that process that's preventing me from fully utilizing all the resources of this amazing computer that we have as a human body? Is there anything greater? No. They have a supercomputer array, the biggest one just built by Elon Musk in record time. It was thought to be impossible, and he built it in a matter of weeks. But nothing compares to the human computer. Nothing. We just have to fully access it. So somehow or other, we have to become as sincere as possible, not artificially, but gradually and purposefully. Right? What is the buzzword now? Mindfully. Everyone says mindful. Does anybody know what does mindfully mean? Where do they get these words? Mindfully. Yeah? They don't even know what the mind is. Prabhupada said, you know, I cannot see your mind and you cannot see my mind. So how do we know the mind exists? What is the mind? You know, so, but they have these things. But we know what is the nature of the soul. Sat Chit Ananda. And so if we do everything properly, then shit happens. So this is our effort. We want to make sure that we can be as smart as a Guru Kuli. Used to have a t-shirt. Are you as smart as a 8-year-old? Some stupid TV show, right? Right there. So full knowledge it's not, how old was Prahlad Maharaj? How old was Prahlad Maharaj? 5-year-old boy. All right? Prabhupada was saying that, how did he get this knowledge? Because one devotee was complaining on the morning walk that, oh, Prabhupada, we were all young men. Prabhupada said, oh, Prabhupada, people over 30, it's very difficult for them to understand. Prabhupada said, well, why 30? Why 30? Because in that generation, when we joined, we had a saying. Anybody know what that saying was? Never trust anyone over 30. So it was like at that point you were conditioned. You were not going to be able to be open and liberal. You couldn't understand the revolution. So nobody tried. But Prabhupada said, no, why 30? Says Prahlad Maharaj is a 5-year-old boy. It doesn't matter. Age is not a bar, not a disqualification. And he also said Dhruva Maharaj. So yes. So we should take good advice even from those who are younger than ourselves. Chanakya Pandit says even from a fool, but there are no fools who have come to Krishna consciousness. They're all liberated souls, but now they have to fully exhibit that liberation by their activities. That's how you know who is a liberated soul. There's no label. They don't walk around, not by a big beard, or anything else. How they act, how they talk, how they sit, how they walk. It's clear. Bhagavad Gita is our fountain of knowledge. Everything is there. So again, guests coming today, we have to make everything spotless. There's a lot to do. If you look down in the prasadam room, there's prasadam left there from yesterday that needs to be cleaned up. So we can't neglect it. We have to take care of it. We have to properly attend to it. So let's all get this spontaneous devotional service mood and do whatever is necessary and needful, and then everything will go smoothly. You'll see. More and more, everything will increase. Very soon, you'll have this 14-story building next door. But if we can't take care of the garbage here, then why will Krishna give some much bigger facility? You have to be very attentive to these things. What is Krishna looking for in order to reciprocate? Just sincerity, Prabhupada said. Only sincerity. Manmana bhavam. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your obeisance to me. Satatam kirtama, all these things. Just service, worship, attention to details. Any questions? Any quick questions? 9:15, so much to do today. All of you great souls, all you Mahatmas, Mahatmanas tamam partha daivim prakritam. You're all under the protection of the divine energy, if you want to be. It's like the umbrella. You can carry it around all day, but unless you open it, it's useless. Yes, sir.
Spontaneous, then how would you make sure that everything is taken care of?
Say that one more time. I got part of that.
To do spontaneous bhakti, how would you make sure that everything else is taken care of?
Well, we don't. The spiritual master, he's the monitor. Okay, so you can engage in that spontaneous service, but it has to be under the guidance of the spiritual master. So we know that our spontaneous service is all related to mission, you could say, focus. Right? It's not that I'm making up something and then engaging spontaneously. Or I want to spontaneously, whatever. No. It's all related to the existing mission focus. Distributing books, distributing prasadam, worshiping the deities, cleaning the temple. I mean, the formula is right there. Every morning we're singing it. Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana, Sringara Tan Mandira Marjanado. It's there. Chatur Vidabha Jante. Well, everything's there. All we have to do is follow those 8 prayers. And then everything will become revealed. We can observe how we see these things in the spiritual master. We'll observe how we see those things in our God brothers. We see that. Don't worry, you'll see it. Anything else, Dr. Dillon? Did I leave anything else out? Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. All glory to Śrimad Bhāgavatam. All glory to Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev, Giriraj Maharaj, Gaurnitai Jagannath Ki Jai. Vaishnav Vrinda Ki